Good evening from New York. I am Selwyn Collins, your host of CWS Journeys. Thank you for tuning in. I'm especially happy this evening. The gentleman on the other end, or the other side of the screen, is my friend who I have the privilege of calling my brother, Dr. Rosh Khan. Rosh, you'll find out by the end of this conversation this evening what an amazing person Rosh is. But Rosh, welcome to CWS, and thanks for coming.
Selwyn, thank you so much for having me. You know, I'm a huge fan of you, of everything you do, of the movement that you've started. So it's an honor. It's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Rosh, I want to start this evening by asking you a soft question. When those close to you describe you, what is it that they say that you find accurate?
Good one. I think people say that I'm action-oriented. You know, there's a lot of people who say a lot of things. There's a lot of people who talk the big talk. But when I hear those close to me describe me and talk about me, they say, you know, if Rosh puts his mind to something, he's going to do it, and he's going to do it well. So I think action-oriented is definitely one of those words. I think compassionate also comes to mind. I often say my secret weapon in business is that I actually care. I care about the people on my team. I care about the people we serve. And hearing people talk about Rosh caring, I think that compassion comes through in everything we do. And I think I'd say trustworthy. Based on what I do, based on the types of conversations that I have with people, it requires a certain level of trust. Trust that what we say in a room together, what we say on the phone is going to stay between us. And the kind of information that people share about their personal life, about their business, it requires someone to be trustworthy. So to sum it up, I'd say action-oriented, I'd say compassionate, and I'd say trustworthy.
You know, I've been on this earth for quite some time now, and one of the things I realize is that you don't be a difficult person, or you don't be an untrustworthy person, you grow up to be a trustworthy person. So this has to be a testament to the way you were raised, the kind of values your parents instill in you. Can you take us back to the 9-year-old Rosh, and then when you finish that, give us a glimpse of what Rosh became at 15 years?
Wow, that's a loaded question, because you're talking about from 9 to 15. I think those are your transformative years, right? Those are when you have the experiences. Those are when you really start to get this level of self-awareness, and you really start to make decisions. When I was 9, I think you mentioned parents, and they were actually the first people that came to mind. You know, coming down, we used to live in the office building. My parents owned a business, RK Security. And we would live in that building, and coming down in the mornings before we head off to school, I'd see my mom. She's already in the office. She's already plugging away at the computer, only to find out that she's been there from 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning getting work done. And years before that, when we lived in New York and I was a baby, I was a toddler, you know, I saw my dad coming home very late at night, because he was doing a furniture delivery with a truck that he owned. And I think it was at that time, 9, 10, 11, 12, that you start to think about these things. And you start to realize, well, I started to realize the level of work ethic that my parents put in. And I think that was my only reality. I didn't know a world, Selwyn, outside of that. You know, to work hard, to give your all, to be committed, to show up early, to stay as late as you can. I think those are all things I started to take away very early on in my childhood, and that came directly from my parents. And during that time, it's interesting you say 9 to 15. My dad introduced me to a lot of books. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, As a Man Thinketh, by James Allen. Books like The Power of Positive Thinking. Books like Psycho-Cybernetics. I started to consume this stuff at a very early age, and I think it gave me a jump start. I think it gave me a head start in early wisdom, in having a certain level of maturity, because at that age you mentioned, that age range you mentioned, 9 to 15, at 15 I found myself in groups and in clubs where I was almost always the youngest. And I think I was the youngest because of the parenting, because of those values, because of the knowledge. My parents were trying to expose me as much as possible to swimming. I went to swimming classes during that period. I went to piano classes. I learned to play the guitar during that period. And at the same time, they were introducing me to the latest gadgets. My parents weren't the most well-off folk, but they were trying their best to get the latest computer, the latest gadgets, so I could explore that sort of technological frontier. And looking back, it made an impact. And I think one of the biggest books that made an impact during that time was a book called The Arc of Ambition, where I learned about Steve Jobs, and I learned about Bill Gates, and I learned about Michael Dell and how he built Dell from scratch. And I remember, during that period of time saying, I want to be one of those guys. I want to build that. Until today, Selwyn, again, really interesting, 9 to 15, I actually have today a printout that I found only 2 years ago. A printout when I was packing everything up. Remember that old school Microsoft PowerPoint?
Yeah.
Real old school Microsoft PowerPoint. I had made these blocks on PowerPoint representing a sort of computer factory, this technology company. And then I showed where the conveyor belts were, where the machines would come out from. And then I had on that blueprint of this factory where the trucks would be, where they would collect the machines and an entry and an exit. And I think it was that period that really got my mind going in terms of what I wanted to achieve later on in life.
If you had a favorite memory of your parents, what would it be?
Wow. For my dad, that's very easy. I'll tell you why. My mom made sure, as much as possible, that she could record on back then VHS, right? Those big camcorders, right, that you put over your shoulders, But it was the home version. She tried as much as possible to record, which often meant that sometimes she was behind the scenes, or she was behind the camera. So it was really my dad interfacing with us. And I remember also different things are coming to mind. With my dad, lots of playtime in the yard. So good old fun, hosing each other down, turning on the tap, soaping each other up, having fun, like that. My dad rollerblading with his shorts on with the kids, almost falling, and all sorts of madness, right? And I think that's a powerful memory with my dad, seeing the way that he interacted with me, seeing the way that he interacted with my siblings, my younger siblings, and the love. You could see it. You couldn't understand it as a child, but seeing it on film, I think that's really cemented how I remember and recall my dad. And with my mom, I think what stands out is her just being there. You had a problem, mom was there. Something wasn't right, mom was the one to call. I was notorious, Selwyn, notorious for doing my projects, specifically my science fair projects, at the very last minute. So I was the kid who was there 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. The day before the science fair, I was the kid getting it done. And guess who was with me? Mom. Mom was with me. She was there pasting, cutting out, putting it on the poster board, just making sure that it looked perfect for the next day. And we could just drop in here that I won those science fairs every single year from grades 9 through 12. So I give a lot of thanks to Mom.
Hard-working folks, entrepreneurs,
yes.
Right? Your dad introducing you to these amazing, transformative books. Any words of wisdom from either of them that still resonate with you today?
Yeah, I think it comes back to what my dad said about going out there and putting in the work. He was so strong about values. Never stealing, never lying, never backbiting. I remember he said something. He's like, "Son, I'd rather you beg than steal." And that, not that he wants me to beg, but to show and to highlight, how bad it would be, how wrong it would be, how unethical it would be to steal. And as a kid, these transformative years, it sticks with you. And there's so many other values that he shared. From my mom, I think it complements a lot of what my dad said in always doing the right thing, and always finding out in any situation, in any conflict. We call our mom the peacemaker. In any conflict we have in the family, not just our direct family, I'm talking about extended family. Somehow my mom was pulled in. She's pulled in because she believes that if you want people to understand, first you have to understand. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. And that's something my mom's embodied. That's something my mom has lived, and I think it's helped me a lot tremendously in all the youth groups and all the NGOs and all the businesses and the ventures that I've started. I think it's really trying to understand where people are coming from, so you can speak their language and we can move together as a unit.
Rosh, you talk about extended family, and I didn't plan on going there, but you're taking me here because I'm curious. Here is this amazing woman, I like to say a phenomenal woman, who happens to be your mother, that has made such an impact on you in life. Let's talk a little bit about the grandmothers.
Grandma, interesting. So my mother's mother was, again, a workaholic. Here's someone that took care of 8 kids. 8 kids in the Backdam. They come from Wickenham, or Wackenham, as some people say. And here's a woman that got up very early in the morning, took care of her husband, took care of her 8 kids, and as a woman, went out in the fields to work. In the sugar fields, to work with sugarcane, and she did back-breaking work. And I think there was this sort of healthy osmosis that took place between the work ethic from grandma on that side and all of her kids, because it's not just my mom. I look at my aunts as well, and they're all very hard-working people. They're all willing to sacrifice for their children. And it's when I hear these stories, it's when I sit down with grandma and she starts to tell us these things, that I really realize the power of woman. I saw it with my mom, but then I started to notice it and observe it with my aunts and then with my grandma, and realized how strong woman must be to do all that they have to do and take care of the family and be a breadwinner in the family. It's a lot on their shoulders, but they do it and they do it again. And my grandmother on my father's side, again, same thing. She was foot to foot, as we say, with her husband. She put in the work. She took care of her kids. And really, you just get the sense, Selwyn, of work ethic all the way through.
What does family mean to you, Rosh?
Family's love. So, and I always say family goes beyond blood.
That sums it up.
Family goes. People in my office, they're family. My staff is family. My customers are family. My folks at home are family. Those people that I consider in my inner circle, that's family. And it really boils down to, do I love this person? Not in a romantic way, but in a way that will you go above and beyond for them? If I get a call from one of my cousins, if I get a call from my sibling and say, Rosh, I need you to be there. So if you give me a call and you say, Rosh, I need you to be there.
And that has happened.
And that's happened. I'm gladly there. Because you're family. In my mind, and more so in my heart, you're family. And as much as possible, some people might say, Rosh, you're too open. You gotta know when to create these walls and these barriers. But I think my best work comes when I get a sense of love for what I do and for who I'm doing it for.
Now, we grew up, at least I've lived more than half of my life here, but I grew up in a society where there was this thing about not sparing the rod, and this thing about discipline, and I thank my parents, especially my mother, for that. Now, you talk about the interactions with your father, with your parents, and the joy and the playing together, water, and so on. But you could not have been this way, Rosh, without your parents knowing when to draw the line. So there must be some negotiations that would have started then. You're an amazing negotiator, Rosh. So I ask you, those times when you were in trouble, which of your parents, and your dad might be listening, so you gotta come clean here, right?
All right.
Which of your parents you stood a better chance negotiating yourself out of trouble?
That's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yeah, bro. You're live.
Yeah. This is a good question though. Look, I think you could easily be a psychologist or a psychiatrist. So you're absolutely right. But that's also another form of love, tough love, right? I think it's very important, very early on, that my parents set the boundaries as to what you can and can't do, and their rewards and their punishment. And in those times where I was up against the wall, I did something maybe I shouldn't have done, I said something I shouldn't have said, there were consequences. And I remember my dad clearly saying, "Son, you behave like a man, and I'll treat you like a man. You behave like a boy, and I'll treat you like a boy." Meaning to say, I don't want to have to school you. Right? Meaning to say, I don't want to have to sit down and sort of talk you through this process. We've taught you values. You're a mature boy. So let's behave at a higher capacity. And but coming back to your question, I think it was easier to find the soft spot in maybe mom. You know, they say sons have this thing with moms and dads have this thing with daughters, right? So I think it was easier to, in front of my dad, he said, "Yes, I'm tough. I'll take it. Give it to me, Dad." But in front of mom, it's, you know, you could be maybe a little bit more vulnerable and get to the heart of the issue. You're putting me on the spot.
When you think of your parents, and mind you, I am asking you these family and parents questions, Rosh, not because I want to beat it into the ground, but I believe that each of us is a gem, and with many facets, and oftentimes people get a glimpse of one or two facets and they form an opinion.
Sure.
What I hope happened during this conversation is to twist the gem and expose the various facets. So I want to get a more multidimensional perspective of who this gentleman, this brilliant young man we've come to know as Dr. Rosh. So I want to ask you this, right? When you think about your parents and how you function in the world, let's take business negotiations and coaching. Whose and which personality or characteristics do you embody or you recognize in you when you're doing what?
Interesting. I think there's a lot that I learned because my parents were entrepreneurs. And I'm filling that space. Interestingly enough, it's a space they didn't necessarily want me to go in growing up. But the reason I mention that is because, again, during that age range you asked me about, 9 to 15, I spent a lot of time in my dad's office, seeing how he operates. I spent a lot of time seeing the kind of questions he asked. I spent a lot of time in my mom's office, seeing how she would get the best out of staff. So, and it comes back to a lot of what I mentioned, which is to first have a consultative approach, and I took that away, and I embody that in everything that I do. You'll never find me picking up the phone and just tearing off on a staff member or a team member, because there are two sides to the story. And I always want to find out what is their recollection of what happened. I learned this from my parents. What do they remember? What do they recall? And what are the facts that were presented to me? And how do we get to the bottom of this? And how do we resolve this? And if there's a way forward, let's map it out and let's get to the bottom of it. If the issues or the conflicts that present itself follow a pattern of incompetence because of, say, maybe someone on my team, well, then that's a deeper issue that we need to deal with. So you talked about negotiation. I think I learned that one from my mom.
Your mom?
Yes, and not in the office.
Wow.
I learned this one in the market. So every Saturday morning, my mom and I go to the market. And man, my mom's good. She is good.
Does she know you think this way about her?
I never told her this.
Okay.
But she's good. She can get the best bargain at the best price. And I remember just the other day, one of my friends, he owns a company that does exterior finishes on buildings. And I thought, what a great opportunity. My parents were putting up a new real estate building, and I said, let me connect them. And this guy, you know what he told me, Selwyn? He came out of the meeting and he said, brother, I don't know how your mom got me to go down so low. She was so sweet. She was so sweet. I walked in not realizing I gave her 70% off. I don't know how she did it. You know, and I take that, and I try to apply that. Of course, being very fair. I like to be very fair in what we do with all our vendors. I think payment is important. I learned that one from my dad. Once you've come to an agreement, you make sure you pay people and you pay them on time.
Say that again, Rosh.
I'm telling you, man, I think there are too many people out there who stretch out payments, who disappear, too many people who give folks in services a very hard time, and it's unfair. And because I'm in that industry, it's unfair for me to do that to others. So I try to clear my debts and clear my expenses as early as possible. And for every entrepreneur that I come into contact with, I tell them to do the same.